Hi folks! In this video we're going to talk about the 30th anniversary of the Blue Rock album, the last album by The Cross with Roger Taylor, Spike Edney, Peter Loon, Clayton Moss and of course Josh McCree. Well, as you know, Roger found this band, The Cross, after the massive Magic tour and after Queen decided to go on another break, and everybody did his own solo stuff in 1987 onwards. And Roger at first decided to make another solo album, his third solo album, but actually he wrote has written all the songs and then decided, well, why don't we, and we is Spike Edney, the other guy, the famous keyboarder, the last Queen shows, and why don't we make another band, or found another band with young musicians and to play some music and just to have fun. So he did this little ad in the newspaper, and over 300 young musicians, young boys came to the casting or to the first meeting. Of course, he didn't betray that it was Roger Taylor, so he just wrote famous rock star. So he produced the first album with all his songs, the Shuffled album, mainly his own bit with Spike Edney, but then in 1990 he just wrote 2 songs for the second album, Mad, Bad and Dangerous to Know album, which is a real band project then. So he was the lead singer instead of being a drummer. He was the lead singer and played the guitar, the main guitar, lead guitar. Spike played keyboard, of course, and organ, so piano. Josh McCree, the new drummer. Peter Loon, the bass player, and Clayton Moss, also guitarist. So we've got 5 members. And with the beginning of the sessions to the Miracle album, 1980, when Queen started to produce another material for a forthcoming album, they decide to work on their own. So we've got The Cross without Roger working together with Queen again, produced the Miracle album till 1989, and in 1989 he went back to the band to sing the lead vocals for the new album. Shuffled album was released in April 1988, and then the new album, Mad, Bad and Dangerous to Know album, in 1990 in March. So at the time where Queen decided not to tour, of course, Freddie was pretty ill at the time. And so Roger really couldn't get enough of music, so he sang the lead vocals from the Mad, Bad and Dangerous to Know album, very successful in Western Germany. But at the time Freddie got more ill. Queen decided to work closer and closer, so it was important to go back to Freddie, to go back to the group, to the main group, as he would call it, and work together on a new album, a new Innuendo album. Of course, it's clear. Check out my playlist to the Innuendo album, the 30th anniversary. Of course, 30th anniversary in February that year. So, and in 1991, so Queen produced the Innuendo album from 1989 almost till 1991. So it's of course been the last album with Freddie. I think everybody knew that in the band, yeah. But Roger, kept on working with The Cross. He said to them, write material and do stuff, but you can hear on the last The Cross album that Roger, well, it sounds a bit sad. Blue Rock actually, as I heard it for the very first time in 2013, I thought Blue Rock, well, it's a dark mood, it's a bit bluesy, but it was another background. They had a camp in Cornwall, and they saw an artist's house, and there was an artist that played the rock, and played the blue. So it was a blue rock. Yeah? So it just has nothing to do with the music, the size of blues music or rock music. So Roger kept focusing on producing records with Queen, singles and the album, of course. But he had a certain responsibility for The Cross, his own baby. And so the album was recorded between February and August 1991, and then released on the 9th of September 1991, only in West Germany, I think in Japan. Just a few countries. And they planned a tour. They planned a tour through Germany, Finland, Switzerland, Austria. Very rapid tour through the whole October. October onwards, but then in November, of course, you know, the health of Freddie Mercury. He got more ill, and then, sadly enough, he died 24th of November 1991. And I think it was very fair from Roger, as opposed to Brian. Roger decided to not release the single, Life Changes, which is the last track on the album, or the regular album. There's another demo called Heartland, which appears on the lot box. But Life Changes was planned for November 1991, but was then put out, and Brian May released his single Driven by You after Freddie died. So you could see it's very interesting. Because Roger then just, of course, very sad. And you can say ill, of course, because they just so depressed and so sad, so lonely. They felt empty. And then everybody got their own way. And in 1992, there was, of course, a tribute concert, but also the last gigs with The Cross. 1993, it was the last, in April, I think, the last gig with The Cross, and then they decided to go their own way. In 2013, there was this reunion, but, you know, not really my cup of tea. Of course, Roger gets older and older, and all the other musicians as well. Yeah, it's very strange. The young guys, and you can compare them with 2013, which is a bit strange, but okay, this was just a reunion for one evening. Although they still have their fans in Germany here. It's quite interesting, because it's cross, yeah, but really had to be a great number here in the late 80s, early 90s. So what material is on the Cross record? You can see, as I said, the rock here. It's a very rare CD, actually it doesn't exist anymore. Some inner sleeves pictures with gigs from The Cross from 1988 over 1990 till 1991. Well, some witness said that the tour wasn't that well, because Roger just screamed the vocals and he wasn't really concentrated, of course, because he knew that Freddie was quite ill, so actually he couldn't really concentrate on the working with The Cross. That's also might be a reason why he just wrote 2 songs, but we're going through. It's Bad Attitude is the only track where all members just wrote one track: Peter Noone, Moss, Edney, Macri and Taylor. Yeah. And of course you got the single You Dark Ages, which has the single cover, the same one, like Las Palabras de Amor, with the baby face, and was actually produced for the Innuendo album, but then changed, and it was then used for the Blue Rock album. It's about the AIDS thing and being healthy, and you know, and also the focus, New Dark Ages. There were Dark Ages at the time for him, for the band, you know, the circumstances, of course. Dirty Mind, very heavy song by Spike Edney. Then we've got the ballet as well by Spike Edney, Baby It's Alright, which I really love. as well as the next track, Ain't Put Nothing Down, by Clayton Moss. There's also a longer version, extended version. Then you've got the Also Rans, the second track by Roger. Unusual for him, very tranquil, and but it's not unusual that he produces tranquil songs, but it is unusual for the album, because the album is more quite heavy, quite rock and roll. He's got a very soft ballet. Maybe you can feel the blues. Then there's Millionaire, which is also a heavy track, written by Moss, Edney, New, and McRae. Put It All Down to Love, also written by Spike Edney, too heavy rock and roll. Then there's this ballet Hand of Fools, it's also a bit more tranquil. It's about the oil crisis at the time, the Spike Edney and Peter Noon. And as I said, Life Changes by Moss, now Edney and McRae. By the way, there was this producer, Mark Wallace, the first time they used a producer and not produced on their own. So I hope you liked it. You can focus on the album and compare it with the Innuendo album and see the history of the time at the time, which is actually quite interesting to see the development of, by the way, of Virgil, for example. Because on the one hand, the last album, the last tracks were recorded with Queen, and on the other hand, actually, there were 4 musicians who wanted to make music, you know. Well, that was all for today. Thank you very much for supporting me. Subscribe to the channel and keep a thumbs up. Bye.